Hi everyone, this is Terry. This is lesson 1 of Photo Stitch 1 for PE Design 11. In this lesson, I will be following along with the material that is in the Brother Manual, but I'll also show you some photos that are photos of my own, just so you can get an idea of the differences throughout this series. The first thing that I want to do is I want to go to home, if I'm not already there, and I want to go to my hoop size. Now, if you don't have your hoop on your ribbon toolbar, you can go to the flower menu and go into Design Settings and choose a hoop size. I'm going to use 100 by 100. One of the things that you need to think about with Photo Stitch is that it is very thread intensive. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have millimeters selected. And when we get into Photo Stitch, you'll understand why. Now, this little image that you see on the screen is the one that you'll use for tutorial 6-3 on page 150. What I will do, because I have this on the screen, I want to go on and select it and click the right key and delete that image because I had it on my screen. I'll show you how to locate these images on your computer. If you go to Image and select Photo Stitch 1, we'll choose Color on the first image, and I want to show you where these are located on your computer. In my computer, it's in Documents. Your document folder may be called My Documents. We'll go into Documents, and you will have files that are image type files selected from this drop-down box. We'll choose Open, and then we need to scroll to find PE Design 11. We'll select PE Design 11 and then go into the sample folder. You'll want to choose Layout and Editing and Photo Stitch. Now you see several photos that are available in this that you can use to try Photo Stitch to see what the results would look like. One of the things that you want to make sure of is that you have a good quality image. And by that, I mean you want to look at photos where the size, the width and the height is between 300 and 500 dots. You'll be able to see that where you see dimensions. So on this JPEG, it has 722 by 484. The other thing that you want to make sure of is that the photos aren't where the subject is so small, such as a group photo, where you really aren't going to be able to stitch out the details, or where the lighting is so poor that the image will not come out well. We'll go ahead and open this photo by selecting it and choosing Open. Now when you open it, you'll notice that you have these handles. And the one thing about these handles, unlike when you're sizing embroidery designs, you will not skew it by moving it in from the side or moving it from the top to the bottom. So we'll select just the face of this little girl and decide how much of this we would want to stitch out. There are masks over here on the side, and I'll show you this in a future video. You'll also notice that you can zoom in on a photo if you want, but one of the things that you need to think of when you zoom in is the amount of granularity that you create by doing that. So for this, I'll just leave it at the original setting on the photo. If I'm not sure, I can always choose Cancel, delete this on the background, and start again. So I could go back into the Photo Stitch 1 and select this image and open it again. and I can see that this was down at the bottom of the setting. You can also tune images if you want. We'll talk about this in the second video. We'll choose next. Excuse me. And now what we need to do is we need to adjust this photo so that it will fit on this design page. If you notice, it's too large for the design page. Now, one thing that I can do is I can tell it to fit to page, and it does fit on that page. And we'll go with this for right now. You can choose next. And you will notice that I have Brother Photo Stitch thread chart. I'm going to change this to 20 colors, and I'll choose Update Preview. And when I update the preview, you should notice a difference between this image versus if I choose 10, and we'll choose Update Preview. You can see that there are some areas where you may not see stitches on your screen. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to look exactly the same when it stitches out. In fact, those people who are in the group who have used Photo Stitch, I'd like to hear from them and understand how many colors they're using whenever they are using Photo Stitch and what they find successful. So we'll leave it right now at 20 colors, and I want to discuss some of the things that we see on the screen. The first thing I want to talk about is on the bottom where it says coarse or fine. This will, by changing this, for instance, it's in the middle now. If I move it to fine, just like a printer would use more ink, fine is going to require more thread because you are increasing the amount of detail that's going to be in this photo stitch. So I'll leave it right in the middle. Run pitch is your stitch length. I'm going to change this to 2.5 millimeters. I think that's a good length for sewing out something like this. What I would tell you though is to select an image and test it. Sew it out with a couple of different thread lengths and see what you like. A lot of this is going to be very impressionistic, meaning that when you look at it, it may look very good from a distance and may not look as good close up. The other thing you can do is you can adjust the brightness or the contrast. You can adjust brightness. It's a slider bar. We can move it down one level. And what you will see if we update the preview is this image is now darker. And if you want to capture more of the darkness in that photo, you can do that. You can also adjust the contrast by moving the slider bar. And in this case, we'll move the contrast to the right and we'll choose Update Preview. And you can see the difference now with the contrast and how it's changed the colors, comparing the background of this image to this image on the right, which now looks more blue than green. And one of the things that you will consider is what kind of colors that you want to have in the design. We'll also talk about the sew page color that you see over here on the bottom of the screen. What this is, if this box is checked, the parts of the pattern that are the same color as the design page will not be sewn. And if it is selected, those parts will be sewn. So if the design page is white, this means that those colors will not be sewn. Or if you're thinking of fabric, whatever fabric you're going to sew it on, and you set your design page to that color as a backdrop, then you will not have stitches in this design page if this checkbox is cleared. If the checkbox is checked, then those parts will be sewn. I'll leave it as sewn. You can add mass outlines as well. I'll show you this in a separate video. Now we'll go ahead and look at our thread chart that we have here with the brother thread chart. Depending on the thread charts that you choose, you'll notice that the appearance is much different. And a lot of this will depend upon your computer as well. One of the things you'll find is if you select different threads, that the appearance of this photo is going to change. And by that I mean different thread charts. I happen to own more Isacord threads than I do any other brand. So if I select Isacord and choose Update Preview, you'll notice that this has changed significantly, and you're seeing more of these blue-greens that are in the background of this photo than what we saw on the brother thread chart, even though the brightness and contrast is the same. So one of the things that I wanted to do is to see how these chips of color look compared to the thread chart that I can use online. And here is an Isacord thread chart, and this is 4250 Snow Moon, and here it is the representative chip on the photo stitch thread chart, or within PE Design 11. You can tell that there is a considerable difference in the tones of these colors, and a lot of that can be contributed to several factors. One is you're not going to get true color on any computer compared to thread, but I would encourage you to print out these threads whenever you do go to do photo stitch and try to match up the colors that are in the background on the photo stitch and do a test sew out to see if you're getting the results that you want. We'll clear this from the screen and we'll go back and we'll look at some other brands just for you to get an idea of the difference. So I'll choose Sulky and update the preview, and here you see more of the blues, and a lot of this depends on the number of threads that particular thread manufacturer has. I'll choose Madeira Poly Neon and update this, and again you will notice that there are some changes made based on this thread. We'll go back and we'll use Brothers Photo Stitch for the remainder of this tutorial for today. And the thing that I want to show you next is that one of the things in this lesson that it was suggested that we pin a couple of these threads and then reduce the color. I want to show you what happens when you pin these threads. So the colors that were suggested were the light blue. The next color is the cream brown. So we'll find the cream brown and pin it. The next is a deep rose, and then the last color was the highlight peach. So we'll find it, and I don't think I pinned them. You have to actually select it and choose reserve. So we'll choose the highlight peach, and then we have the deep rose, and the last color that we need is the light blue, which is right here. Now when you reserve these colors, because you see these and you want them to be part of the colors, if you reduce the number of colors, and we'll reduce it to 10, and we'll update preview, you will see that those colors are included in this reduced version of threads. So this is one way to keep those in a design. Likewise, if I change my thread chart and I go to isochord again and I choose update preview, those threads will also appear even though they're not isochord in this preview. So if I want to remove them, what I need to do is to click on them and click reserve again to remove them. That's not the same as remove over here, so don't confuse it with that. I guess I should say if I want to unreserve them. So we'll select it again and choose reserve, and then we'll choose update preview, and you can see how the color changes. We'll talk about some other things that are on this page. If you choose auto select, this selects whether the threads will be selected automatically with it on, or if it's turned off, they will not be selected automatically. And we'll turn it off and we'll choose update preview, and you notice that nothing happens. We'll go ahead and turn it back on again, and you'll notice that all of the options are now visible. So when we turn that off, these options are not visible. The next thing I want to talk about is this add button here. The add button is used to add a thread color to the list. So you can select a thread chart and choose a color that you want to be in this design. So if I wanted to have something that had more mauves or mauve tones, like this 1913, I can choose OK and add it. It is now added, and when I update the preview, you can see how it picked up some deeper tones. Now, you will also notice that it is pinned and reserved to this thread chart. If you choose remove, it will select a color in the list, and we will delete that color and reduce the number of colors. So I'll select this and choose remove, and now it's removed from my thread chart, and I'll choose update preview. If you look at the bottom, you also see others down on the bottom of the screen. If I click others, this will tell me whether I want to have my conversion priority based on stitch quality, or if I want to have jump stitches reduced, if I want to have this more of a photo image or a cartoon image. Let me choose cartoon and choose OK and choose update preview. And now you can see that this looks more like an artistic view of this photo and more cartoonish and with less detail. We'll go back to others and change it back to photo and choose OK and update the preview. So the next thing that you would do is once you are satisfied with what you have, and I'll go back to auto select and I'll choose the brother photo stitch and choose update preview, and you will recall that there were some colors that I had reserved that I wanted to have in this. I'll go back and change it to 20 and choose update preview, and now I'll select those colors and reserve them so they stay in the design when I choose fewer colors. And I believe it was, and we have one more to choose, which was this cream brown, and reserve it. We'll now reduce this down to 10 and choose update preview and choose finish. So when you click this and you choose finish, it is now digitizing this design. Now, one thing I have heard from other people who have used photo stitch quite a bit is that what you see on the screen is not necessarily reflecting the quality of the image that you'll stitch out. So what you need to do is you need to stitch it out to see whether you're satisfied with 10 colors or 20 colors to get the detail you want. You will notice looking down the bottom left hand corner that this is 18,000 stitches, which is quite large. So keep that in mind, and we'll continue in the next lesson showing you more about Photo Stitch 1. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you watching the videos. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe.